Good evening, and welcome to the Class of 2021 Top 10 ceremony. This is always one of my favorite nights of the year. I see the foundation and purpose of this night as gratitude, and it's fitting that this year it falls right in the middle of Teacher Appreciation Week. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the Speedway Lions Club for hosting this event annually. I'd like to welcome and thank the members of the Speedway School Board, Mr. William Hardig, Mr. Luke Bickle, Mrs. Laura DeGay, Mrs. Deborah Gonzalez, and Mr. Tom Smith. We truly appreciate the guidance and support you provide our school district. I would also like to thank our school superintendent, Dr. Kyle Trebley, the assistant superintendent, Mr. John Disney, and our director of exceptional learners, Mrs. Andrea McIntosh. From the high school, thank you to Counselor Mr. Chuck Bennett, and a very special thank you to Counselor Misty Davenport, who has organized this event. There'll be a lot of thanks and appreciation going around tonight, I'm sure. The Greek philosopher Aristotle describes virtue as the mean, that middle point between two extremes of behavior. For example, the virtue of generosity would be the mean between being too stingy or being too frivolous. The virtue of courage would be between being reckless and being a coward, cowardice, and so on. But when you think about gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, you know, being around an ungrateful person could be really disappointing, really frustrating. But have you ever really been around somebody who's too thankful or too appreciative? Being with a grateful person can improve our perspective and lift everyone's spirits. The process leading up to this ceremony and all parts of it provide opportunities to express gratitude, to practice becoming a more grateful person. Our students have much to be thankful for. They're sitting with their families and loved ones and their parents, who were their first teachers. Top 10 students, please take advantage of all the opportunities in the coming months that mark these important crossroads to thank all those who helped you along the way. I'm sure the parents and families in attendance are thankful for the teachers, the care and guidance they've shown their children who are now young adults. The teachers recognized here certainly appreciate being identified by someone who they've invested in. We all became teachers because we wanted to help students realize their potential. Acknowledgement that we were successful in our efforts is among the greatest rewards we receive in this profession. We also appreciate the parents of these students for the great job they did preparing them before we knew them and for entrusting them to us each day. Finally, everyone in this room is appreciative of the students, everything they've accomplished, the great things they've done for this school, and for everybody they care about. At this time, we'll begin our presentations. First up, Carson Harrison and Mr. Brian Passwater. Gentlemen, please make your way to the podium. Carson will be attending Purdue University to major in pre-veterinarian science, and Brian Passwater is a math teacher here at Speedway High School.
For everything. Now, most of you may be wondering why I've chosen Mr. Passwater as my most influential teacher, and that would be a good question. However, for these past 2 years that I have known Mr. Passwater, I felt like I have known him for an eternity. As soon as I stepped into the classroom, I felt comfortable. I felt like he was the teacher whom I could go to about anything. Maybe the feeling wasn't mutual, but that's the way I felt about him. Some aspects to define Mr. Passwater are very hard, as many can define him, from a genius to a guy who wears light-up shoes at class. But one aspect that I can always attribute to him will be his willingness to teach and his passion for teaching. He not only drives, but he thrives to teach calculus. You can feel his eagerness to teach and how he wants everyone to learn and knows that everyone is capable of learning, even if that person doesn't think so. With his passion, he can make calculus somewhat fun, because nobody thinks calculus is fun besides him. Along with his passion goes his care. I have never in my entire life heard of a teacher who's at the school at 12:30 a.m., putting in grades and willing to give a student a graphing calculator for the SAT they had the next morning. Now, I wouldn't know who that student would be, but that is just one of the many crazy and caring acts Mr. Passwater performs. He will not only stay late, but he will also get up early in the morning, drive from Carmel, get Hardee's for his students, and he does all of this to make it back at the high school at 7:20 in the morning. These mornings could be to talk about homework, help with homework, just talk, or even talk about life and how to become successful in the future. He not only helped me during the weekdays, but during the weekends as well, as he would help me with the SAT prep, as he is one of the best to teach prep, and he also increased my score by 140 points, which was a massive jump. No teacher in my mind is willing to do all of this, not to mention him teaching a whole other class during plug time and after school. Now, I was asked if Mr. Passwater had challenged, inspired, encouraged, or motivated me, but Mr. Passwater has done all of these things for me. He has challenged me to become better. He has given me problems and challenged me to make me better. He has challenged me with his SAT prep, and he has inspired me to become the best I can be at math. He has inspired me by his enthusiasm he shows up to work with every day, which hopefully I will have that energy one day. And he has encouraged me to become the best me. Now, the final message I would like to deliver and leave you guys with is to show how much Mr. Passwater has cared and changed me. Although I may not show it in class, as he knows me for not having many expressions, I want him to know how much I appreciate his care, from all the countless Hardees, the SAT help, the calculator, the endless jokes, the sarcasm, the list goes on, and it will continue to grow. He has changed me by the way I view academics, he has changed the way I go about things, he has changed my outlook on life, and he most importantly has changed my life. The care, the change, the lessons will never be forgotten. Thank you, Mr. Passwater, for everything.
I didn't want to look at Carson because my wife thinks I'm a robot and I don't want to cry, so I can't look at him when he's talking to me because emotions are rough sometimes. So, I started here last year at Speedway High School, and I had taught a couple other places as well, and I was excited to come here, but I knew that none of the kids would know who I was, and so I wanted to get the year off to a good start, my first year at a new school, and so I promptly came for the first day of school and then skipped the next week due to some previous commitments I'd already made before I took this job. And so I think a lot of the students had missed the first day due to the fair, and a couple other things. It was band day, I believe, and I think there was a rumor like, was that guy even real? He's a weird guy, came in with a math tattoo and showed up for a day and then disappeared for a week. What's going on? Where's Mrs. Kilgore? But Carson stuck with me. And I remember the first week, I couldn't figure out a lot of the kids. I couldn't figure out Carson. I wasn't sure if he enjoyed the class or hated the class, but I learned quickly about his own passion. And Carson shared a lot of really kind and nice things, but I think what is underlying all of that was that Carson was doing all those things. Carson got up every morning and came to school half an hour early to do extra calculus prep. Carson got up every single day and did extra SAT prep. Not a single day did he miss. Not a single day did he text me and say, hey, I'm a little bit tired, I woke up late, I'm not gonna be there. I think this year, probably 80 days out of the year this year, Carson has come in early and either worked on SAT prep, calculus. He was one of the students that was staying after school and doing extra BC calculus, an entire extra course just for funsies. So when he says calculus isn't that fun, he voluntarily took a second class this year that wasn't for a grade. So you're just as weird as I am, just so we know. I think as a teacher, I've been immensely impressed with Carson's academic ability, but I think what I love about him the most is his character and his person. I have a daughter who graduated high school a few years ago, and when I would go through and teach, I kind of would have the bar of the dad bar of a lot of kids are great, a lot of kids are neat, but when I let them date my daughter. And Carson was one of the few that would pass that test. Just stay away. That's not an invitation, but he would pass the test. He's a kid that I think is going to have an incredibly bright future. the talent he has and the character he has and the passion he has and the consideration he has, I think is going to take him farther than I could ever dream to be. And so I'm incredibly honored that Carson would choose me, and I'm incredibly honored that Carson made my first 2 years at the school memorable. I'm sure I'll be speaking Carson stories for years and years to come, including the SAT story. When he mentioned about the calculator, and Carson had been working with me for 2 months on the SATs, every day before school. And then Friday night, the day before the test, he texts me at midnight and says, "Hey, is there any chance you could bring me a calculator?" And I live 30 minutes away. I'm thinking, number one, I'm somewhat just proud that he would feel confident enough and comfortable to ask me at midnight on a Friday if I would drive to his house and bring him a calculator because he forgot it at school. And somewhat just shocked, like, why would you even ask that? I think he was equally shocked that I was still at school at that time. And I was like, good news, Carson, I'm actually here right now. And a couple of police cars later, wondering why a student and a teacher are in the parking lot exchanging something, we cleared it all up, and Carson did a great job. So thank you, Carson, so much. Thank you for honoring me, and thank you for making my first 2 years here the best they could possibly be.
Thank you, Mr. Passwater. Thank you, Carson. The purpose of tonight is gratitude, not matchmaking, and I'm sure Audrey agrees with that as well, so for future speeches. Our next two, Emma Allison and Kylie Kievey, is the teacher she is honoring. If you guys would please make your way to the stage. Emma is going to be attending Cedarville University to study language arts education. And Kylie Kievey is a teacher and coach here at Speedway High School.
Cry in your goggles. Though I have had the privilege of having Miss Kievey as my teacher for my final year of high school, I can honestly say that I've learned more from her during these past 4 years by having her as my coach than I ever did in the classroom. When I first started swim season my freshman year, I was, in her words, shy, awkward, and push-up handicapped. At the beginning of swim season, I was struggling to find where I fit on the team. I don't mind just keeping to myself, but Kievey moved me to a lane with 2 upperclassmen girls pretty early in the season. They became some of my closest friends who, along with Kievey, pulled me out of my shell and encouraged me to interact more with others. When they graduated, Kievey taught me to be a leader to others, even when I would have rather stayed quiet and kept to myself. Through her constant support and listening to my many problems, she showed me how to let people go and fill that void by helping and encouraging others instead. When my upperclassmen friends graduated and I began trying to figure out what being a new leader on the team looked like, Kievey was someone who I could still look up to. My relationship with her has taught me loyalty, patience, and positivity. Through Kievey's constant amiability to everyone, I have slowly learned how to be more open to new people, and I have tried to become more positive in all situations, though I still have a lot of work to do. Kievey has always been encouraging to people, and she brings an energy and fun to every situation that I hope to one day replicate as a teacher myself. I have learned that there is a difference between doing all that you have been asked to do and doing more than what is expected of you in an effort to achieve a goal. There was never really a specific point that I realized this. Slowly, over the course of Kievey's many speeches about how it's all mental and telling us to cry in our goggles when we wanted to give up, I learned to push myself a little bit harder every day, but more importantly, to fight for what I wanted outside of normal practice time. This is an extremely valuable lesson to realize that sometimes in life you just have to push through to accomplish what you need to do, even when you don't have time to stop and feel sorry for yourself. Just cry in your goggles and keep moving. Because of her suggestion, I took weight training for 2 years, and I even took up running when I wasn't able to swim during quarantine. If you know me, you know that running is one of the things that I hate the most, and there are no goggles to cry in when you're running. However, although these lessons have helped me to succeed in accomplishing my career-long goal of breaking the school record in the 100 breaststroke, I believe they are far more important to take with me throughout life. People are going to disappoint you or leave you. There will be times when it seems like everything you do won't be enough to accomplish what you want, but you just have to find that one more thing to make yourself a tiny bit better every day. Though high school has definitely been a challenge for me, and there have been many times when I would love to be able to skip to the next chapter of college, Kievey has always been there to support me and give me a reason to come to school every day. I have found that as my senior year draws to a close, there are many things that I will, in fact, miss about high school and the simplicity of routine. The biggest of which will be walking into Kievey's class every morning and saying good morning to her, and having opportunities every day to easily talk to her whenever I need to. While I know that this quote is somewhat cliche, I have realized through you, Kievey, how lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard.
Well, I told myself I wouldn't cry, so there goes that. I also hate public speaking, so there's also that. So I'm gonna stand up here and shake, but, so this is my first group of kids to have taught from freshman year to senior year. It has been something special to watch Emma blossom from an awkward, the word she used as well, freshman to a confident young woman. And instead of listing off how amazing Emma is, because we'd be here all day, I thought that maybe I would project what Emma's life may look like in 20 years, and I could be completely off, based on what I have learned about her. First, Emma will be living in England, probably in the country. She will wake up every morning with her tea and feed her 10 animals. I think cats, but I love cats too. She will get her kids ready. You don't have to have kids if you don't want to, so we can get her kids ready for school and make sure they don't forget their swim bags. She will spend her day teaching ELL and spend her afternoons making sure her kids' swim coach knows what they're doing, or she'll be coaching herself. She will be sharing her love of Jesus with those she encounters, not with her words, but with her kindness and compassion. Emma, you is kind, you is beautiful, you is important. And I want you to believe that with your whole heart as you move on to your next chapter in your life.
Thank you, Emma and Miss Kievey. Our next student is Mary Simonson, and the teacher she's recognizing is Stacy Burke. If you could please make your way up. Mary will be attending Purdue University to study nursing, and Stacy was Mary's 8th grade Spanish teacher here at Speedway Junior High.
Most of us had Mrs. Burke as our 8th grade Spanish teacher. It was her first full year of teaching at Speedway, and I'm sure our class was pretty memorable for her. However, unlike most students, I get to say that I've had the pleasure of seeing her throughout my entire high school career. She's been my soccer coach for 3 years, and she was a swim coach for 2 out of the 4 that I've swam. Due to the fact that swim seasons are just about the entirety of the year and soccer filled in the rest of the gaps, I had the opportunity of seeing her just about every day for my first 2 years of high school. Mrs. Burke has always been a teacher, role model, and friend to me since I've known her. She is nothing but courteous and kind to anyone who has the pleasure of getting to meet her. Mrs. Burke is known for being an energetic ball of sunshine, and if you know me, I'm quite the opposite of most things Mrs. Burke represents. So we've been able to complement each other quite well and bring each other back down to earth. Mrs. Burke was there for me my sophomore year when I was diagnosed with a super weird illness, and she was one of the only teachers who reached out to me during the entirety of my month-long stay at Riley just to make sure I was doing okay. If you know Mrs. Burke, this is not out of character for her. She has always treated me like her little sister and made sure I don't let myself stay down for too long. It's not just me that she shows this kindness to either. She's a friend to all and strives for inclusivity. Not only has she been a great friend and coach, but she's also one of the best teachers I've had the opportunity of learning from at Speedway. Her class is engaged and vibrant, which can be difficult for a foreign language course. My mind often creates mental walls with new subjects that I often struggle to get over sometimes. And in Spanish, Mrs. Burke didn't waste any time and threw me over that wall. I don't think I'll ever do as well in a foreign language class as I did in the one Mrs. Burke taught. Mrs. Burke has all the qualities of an outstanding teacher, which makes her excel at her job. Mrs. Burke is an excellent teacher, a great coach, and an all-around phenomenal person, which is why I chose to bring her to the Class of 2021 Top 10 celebration. Throughout the time I've known her and learned from her, she has given me the tools and foundation necessary for me to succeed. Without her support the last 5 years, I don't know where I would be. Thank you, Mrs. Burke, for all you've done for me, and I hope you continue being the ray of sunshine that you are.
Well, Mary may not be the ray of sunshine that she thinks she isn't, but she is. Goodness gracious. I love having middle schoolers because you get to see them at such a wonderful age, and then you get to see them go into high school and grow up to these people that are just absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't have imagined Mary becoming the young lady better than she is today. When she got hurt on the soccer field, it broke my heart to not have her play anymore, and I was afraid I wouldn't get to see her very much, but that did not happen. I saw her like every day, and she is someone who does not complain about doing anything. If I need her to do something, she just automatically does it, and then even if I don't ask her to do something, she already knows what she needs to do. She is absolutely incredible, and I don't have enough good things to say. I mean, I do have more than good enough things to say about Mary. She's going to be the most fantastic nurse. She's going to make people smile and take such good care of them. And I'm so lucky that I've had you in my life. She said she considers me a big sister. That's good. I'll go with big sister because I was going to say I feel like her mom sometimes, and I love it. So we'll stick with a big sister. So.
Thank you, Mary and Ms. Burke. Our next student is Jorge Puga Hernandez, and the teacher he's recognizing is Cindy Franklin Toon. Jorge will be attending IUPUI and will study software engineering. Ms. Franklin is our Spanish teacher here at the high school.
Gracias por todo, señor. I moved to Speedway my freshman year without knowing anybody or anything about the community and its people. I was very anxious as everybody already knew each other from the junior high and nobody seemed to talk to me. You were the very first teacher that I talked to during the freshman orientation, and I have grown to admire you ever since. Our conversation was very brief, but I felt some assurance based on your concern towards me. When I received my schedule and went to the first day of high school, I was pleased to see that Spanish 2 was my first period. You were there to instantly receive me and the rest of my classmates, which felt very welcoming. You encouraged us to talk to each other about what we did over the weekend and our interests almost every day, to the point that it got kind of repetitive. However, I understood the reason behind this was for us to learn more about each other and practice speaking and hearing Spanish. Despite already being fluent in Spanish, I have learned a lot from you. You have allowed me to improve my Spanish by helping me with things like where to put accents and correcting me when I misuse a word. You also taught me various things that I didn't know about Spanish-speaking countries and even things about my own culture. This motivated me to do more research, which has led to me to discover new interesting facts to share with you. I started to become more sociable thanks to you encouraging us to talk to our peers in class all the time, and I even made some new friends. I enjoyed your class so much that I didn't hesitate to put Spanish 3 on my schedule for the next year. I remember I would come in and tell you a corny joke in Spanish every day that I found online or came up with just to see your reaction, and more specifically, that funny face you make when you finally get the joke. I enjoyed laughing with you about them and knew that my jokes were way better than the Spanish memes you would show us in class. Toward the end of the year, you asked me to take AP Spanish Lang for my junior year, which made me feel honored, and I immediately agreed to do so. I was once again in a class which consisted mostly of people I didn't know, as it was mostly full of seniors, apart from those who you also asked to skip Spanish for. After the first week of class, I was surprised to hear your idea to have me take AP Spanish Lit instead of Lang after reading an essay I wrote in Spanish. I knew there had to be a good reason for you to come to this conclusion, so I accepted to move up once again. You saw the potential within me to pass the AP exam, which I'm extremely grateful for. I was surprised by how rigorous and challenging the class was, even for a Spanish speaker, but you were always there to help us when we were struggling. In the end, I was able to get a 5 on the AP exam, but I wouldn't have been able to do so without your words of encouragement. I'm very thankful for having met a great teacher like you. Your compassion, intelligence, and humor are 3 of the traits that I adore the most about you. You always ask if we're doing all right when you see us down and try to cheer us up. You are very kind-hearted and respectful to everyone, even if they don't necessarily show you the same affection back. You genuinely care for the safety and feelings of your students, which has allowed us to express ourselves with you in class. I will always cherish the moments when we would argue over trivial things like the correct definition of a certain word, or how to say something correctly in Spanish. I will never forget the times when I would tease you in class as a joke, not because I wanted to embarrass you, but because I knew that I could be myself when I talked to you. Looking back at how much you have helped me since my first days of high school, there is no reason why I wouldn't have chosen you as my most influential teacher. I would have never guessed that you would have impacted my life so much, and I want you to know that you will always hold a special place in my heart. I know that I won't find a better Spanish teacher than you, and I really hope you get to achieve all your goals. Gracias por todo, señora.
I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. First of all, thank you so much, Jorge. It was very, very, very nice. I remember when Jorge came through for the freshman orientation, when he said that, I do remember that now. And I do remember him being a little scared. I remember him being scared really his freshman year and sophomore year when he was in my classroom. And I have seen him grow into such a great young gentleman. He amazes me how he works so hard and works so much. The minute he gets in my classroom, he's got something out and he's working on it. He's not on his phone playing, he's not doing games, he's working. And it's very impressive. And I think his junior year, when I decided that he should move up to Spanish literature, I could see that potential in him, like he said. And I knew that he would do great on it. Like I said, it was a very difficult class. Even native speakers, Spanish speakers, struggle with the literature. And Jorge was one, I think, of 2 that got a 5 on that his junior year. Well, he was the only one that was a junior that got the 5. And then, so I did not want to lose him. I didn't want him not to take Spanish this year. So he's taking Spanish language this year, and I know he'll do phenomenal on it. The Spanish jokes and puns, he's so correct about that. He came to me every day, was that your sophomore year? Every day with a new pun, And I will admit, many days I did not get the joke, and I would have to wait for him to explain it to me. And he'd explain it, and then I would, oh yeah, and I probably did make a stupid face. So those were fun. He gave me a hard time because I was at that point doing a lot of memes, and he said, I can show you something funnier than the memes that you put on the computer. So that was very nice. This year I've seen him grow into a leader. With us, with COVID and pandemic, we weren't able really to have a Spanish club like we've had in the past. And Jorge asked me the first week of school or the first couple weeks of school if we could still do something as a Spanish club. And I said, sure, you take charge and let me know. And he has done that. Every month he's come up to me with some kind of an idea or some plan so that we can do something as a small group. There's a very small group of us that do it. We come every month, we get together, we have a good time, but that is all because Jorge has planned them. And I'm so grateful that he's been able to take that role, and it's been very good for him, and it's been good for his classmates and the other members of the club. Last thing I'll say is Jorge wants to be a software engineer, and one day I was on my way to school or something, and I was thinking about an app, and I said, I know when I get to school I'm going to ask Jorge to develop it, and he is going to develop it, and we are going to make millions. So I came to school, and first thing I said to him, do you remember this, Jorge? I said, Jorge, I have this great idea. We're going to do this app. And he Googled something. He's like this app? And I said, yeah. He said, it's already been done. I said, oh, I guess we can't make millions, Jorge. But I tell you, when I come up with that idea, he's the first person I'm going to go to because I know he'll be able to do it. And he's going to do so great in the future. And we're going to see him on TV with this great app making millions of dollars. Sponsored by me, of course. Thank you, Jorge.
Thank you, Jorge and Ms. Franklin-Toon. Our next student is Augustina Gibson, and she will be recognizing Ms. Kylie Weatherhead. Augustina will be attending Indiana University to study psychology, and Ms. Weatherhead is our art teacher here at the high school.
I'm stuck. Okay. The Art of Change. I have had Miss Weatherhead as a teacher during both my sophomore year for ceramics and my senior year for AP Art History. I've also been her teacher's assistant for the last 2 years. I have learned so much from and about Miss Weatherhead these last 3 years, and she has been an incredibly important aspect of my high school experience. Art has always been a cornerstone of my life, something I admire and love, and Miss Weatherhead, through art, has taught me perseverance, adaptability, and positivity. My sophomore year was when I initially began to appreciate the amazing teacher Miss Weatherhead is, largely because of her commitment to her students. I'm all over the place as I make art, and typically have more ideas than I do plans to actually execute them. However, she has always been able to see my ideas and help merge this vision with a plan, such as my Liberty shoe for a surrealist project we were doing. I struggled to come up with any ideas at all, but she shared with me a concept she had brainstormed, and I became determined to execute it. Thus began my month-long endeavor to create this sculpture. I spent every day working in class bell to bell, and spent hours before and after school until its completion and eventual submission into our district art show. This is the best work of art I've ever made, not only because of the piece itself, but because of the lessons I learned through this experience. Miss Weatherhead became just as invested in my piece and its success as I was, which showed me the passion she has for teaching and for her students. AP Art History is an incredibly vigorous class with a requirement of learning extensively about 250 works of art in only one school year. It is a feat for both student and teacher alike. Miss Weatherhead has created an environment where everyone in our small class, including her, can be vulnerable and learn with and from each other. She is always searching for new ways to help us learn best and provide resources to ensure our success in the class and on our AP exam. She never allows anyone to fall behind the rest of the flock and plans for every single person in the class to pass because of her confidence in them. Ms. Weatherhead is also an incredible advisor outside of the classroom. She has always been there to sit with open ears and an open mind. She has helped to guide me in my plans for the future as far as what I should major in, what school I should go to, in my future career. She has always given the best advice and is willing to tell me what she really believes is best for me, not just what she thinks I want to hear. I'm inspired by her drive and desire to push her students to success, but most of all, her positivity. Despite her worst days and her hardest moments, Ms. Weatherhead always continues to push forward and put her heart into her classes. I will always appreciate everything Ms. Weatherhead has taught me, what an inspiration she has been, and will strive to make her proud of what I achieve thanks to her.
I do have to agree, in my opinion. The surrealism shoe that she did and that art show knocked any other ceramic work out of the water. And she truly, in my opinion, it was the best of show. You did amazing. I actually wrote a little something for you too to present. These past 3 years, I've had the privilege of Augustina's go-getter mentality and gumptious spirit filling the classroom, inspiring myself and other students to tap into creativity and innovation. Countless times I've been impressed with her ability to look at a situation, decipher what needs to be done, and execute with confidence. Throughout her time at Speedway High School, she has immersed herself in a myriad of extracurricular activities, giving her the opportunity to use her innate leadership skills. Through that involvement, it comes as no surprise she excelled as president of Key Club and National Honor Society. I can't wait to watch that sphere of influence expand exponentially when she conquers her endeavors at Indiana University and beyond. Augustina has polish, versatility, and drive. Those qualities are rarely honed in on with such maturity at her age. To be nominated by a student of her academic caliber and sophistication is truly an honor. I'm trying not to cry. Thank you to her parents. Really nicely done. Nicely done, I cannot say it enough. Thank you to Ms. Davenport and the Lions Club for giving the well-earned recognition and voice to the top 10 students.
Thank you, Augustina and Miss Weatherhead. Our next student is Tata, so he'll be recognizing Miss Whitney Baker. Tata will be attending Indiana University, where he'll study pre-med biology. Whitney Baker is our social studies teacher.
From a teacher to a friend. I want to start off my top 10 essay by dedicating a little of it to who have supported me and have been with me through my years of education in Speedway schools. I want to say thank you to my teachers, my friends, my family, and the school administration for supporting me and allowing me to gain the knowledge necessary to enter the next stage of my life. I also want to say congratulations to the other members of the top 10, as your hard work and dedication has awarded you with the opportunity to have this prestigious event during a pandemic. The teacher that I've chosen as my honored guest is Mrs. Baker. I took AP World History along with my classmates my freshman year, and currently I am her teacher assistant. Even though Mrs. Baker only taught me for 1 year, her impact on my education and life is overwhelming. My admiration for Mrs. Baker stems from her dedication to making the class easy to understand while formatting the hard AP questions to prepare us for future AP tests. I remember Wet Wednesdays where students could come back to the school after school hours to work on the homework together with Mrs. Baker. This act of selflessness really made me admire her even more, as as I felt my understanding of the content was not only important to me, but also important to her. One lesson that I've learned from Mrs. Baker is to enjoy the little things in life. I didn't like school because it felt repetitive. I felt like I was in a never-ending loop of waking up, going to school, coming back, and repeating that process. I struggled to find a reason to enjoy my time at school. It wasn't until I reminisced about the memories of my friends and I that I began to understand the beauty of the little details. I remember the jokes made at my lunch table on a gloomy day. I remember sharing a laugh with my friend as we browsed through memes, and I remember the warm feeling of being near my friends and being accepted. This lesson not only built my character, but is a pivotal part of who I am. Even though my education with Mrs. Baker ended after my freshman year, my friendship with Mrs. Baker never ceased to disappear. I would visit her after 7th period to casually talk to her about my problems I've been facing, or have a friendly conversation between two friends. The message I want to give to Mrs. Baker is that the class of 2021, or just me, still wants the donuts that you promised us. For people that didn't know, Mrs. Baker promised my class that the day of our AP test, she would buy us donuts. She didn't, but it was for a good reason. She did have a baby. And jokes aside, I wanted to tell Mrs. Baker to continue being the phenomenal teacher that you are, but also be the best friend you can be for the students. I will always consider myself lucky to say that you taught me, but more importantly, I will always cherish my friendship with you. Your impact on my education and my life will always be remembered. As my essay starts to an end, I want to take the opportunity to thank the teacher of the Speedway School's administration. I and other students will always appreciate the work and dedication that all of you have put into giving us an education and to preparing us for the future. As my time of being a Speedway High School student comes to an end, I want to say thank you for not being an influential teacher in my life, but also being an unexpected friend to cherish.
I do apologize about the donuts. I said that before I knew I was pregnant, so I do apologize. To all of you, I do apologize about the donuts. Still hear about that. I first met Tata 6th period as a freshman. You sat in the back in 6th period, I think by Kendall. Sorry, that's very random. But you were in my 6th period class, and right away, that was my 2nd year of teaching freshman AP classes. And the one thing I would say about Tata, and that I've seen continue to happen as he's gotten older, is that he's a very passionate, very hardworking young man who loves a challenge and is willing to go the extra mile whenever it may need to be, gone after. And he was a person who thrived in that challenging class, and I was really honored to see him begin to work at that really hard level and begin to grow. And when he would come to WAP Wednesdays, and he would just really just ask for help and really want to always constantly get better. And as a student and as a person in general, I think all of us should strive to always get better, and no matter what we're doing, whether it's school, whether it's our job, whether it's relationships, constant striving for trying to be your best. And that is something that I look at Tata and I think I need to be more like Tata, because he has shown me that working hard, always putting forth that extra effort is extremely, extremely beneficial. And it's truly been an honor to not only teach Tata, but the entire senior class. And I'm very grateful that I got to teach you, and I do apologize it was shortened by me having a child, but he also has decided to be a tennis manager this year, which means I get to hang out with him more, and that friendship has continued to grow as well. So I'll never forget those after, the academic bowl meetings. We'd come back and we just have conversations, and so Tata is a great young man, and I'm so excited for his future, and I'm so excited that I get to call him one of my friends.
Thank you, Tata and Mrs. Baker. Our next student is Riley Mathis, and she will be recognizing Mr. Tim Kurtz. Riley will be attending IUPUI to study health sciences. Mr. Kurtz is our environmental science and AP biology teacher here at Speedway High School.
My best friend, Mr. Kurtz. I've always known that I would pick Mr. Kurtz as my most influential teacher to bring to this event. Even though our ceremony is different from past years, we who are in the top 10 are still being recognized. Mr. Kurtz taught me pre-AP biology, AP biology, and AP environmental science. I was lucky enough to be able to take the AP environmental science. That course was the only AP science class I have passed with flying colors and passed the AP exam as well. I give all the credit to Mr. Kurtz, as biology was not my forte, but he made me fall in love with the environmental course. He taught in such a manner that I even realized what my backup career would be. He taught us how to take care of our earth and how to live sustainably. He taught me all I needed to know and more. He is and always will be a great teacher. Taught us plenty in the classroom, but he also acted as a friend. My APES class consisted of approximately 14 people, and I had no friends my age in that class, and I'm not the most outgoing and extroverted person. So I thought I would despise the course and never be engaged. But Mr. Kurtz was determined to not let that happen. He taught the course in such a way that I had to pay attention. I was a sponge, and he was feeding me a river of knowledge. I genuinely enjoyed learning when he was teaching, and I didn't feel like knowledge was being forced down my throat just to be regurgitated for a test and be completely forgotten about 2 weeks later. Kurtz is so passionate about teaching the environment to teenagers who have no regard for it. You don't see that often anymore, and I'm glad we have someone here at Speedway teaching students about the importance of our environment and our earth. My career goals need the sciences, but more of the chemistry, biology, and physics part of science, not the environmental part. So I'm not in love with the course because my career would have involved it, but I love it because it was taught by someone who genuinely cares about you and makes sure you learn. He wanted us to learn and retain the information we taught. I would say he did so successfully. During lockdown in 2020, Mr. Kurtz would sing these little songs. Every Zoom call, he would open up with a song that related to environmental science, but to the tunes of songs he liked to listen to. I assume he did this to boost morale, and it worked. It would make a student smile, maybe even laugh, and at that time, nobody felt like doing schoolwork anymore. But Mr. Kurtz managed to make it more enjoyable, and I'm in awe with how well he adjusted to COVID and how he continued to keep his students engaged. It shows us how he will go to any lengths for our success. Mr. Kurtz is not only a teacher, but a friend too. I could go tell him about my day, and he'd sit back and listen to what I had to say. He even helped me pick a schedule for my senior year that we both know would accommodate me and prepare me for college. He creates strong bonds with his students, and he creates a safe environment for everyone. There was once a time when a classmate had said a homophobic joke during class when there was a student in the classroom who happened to be a part of the LGBTQ+ community. Mr. Kurtz did not tolerate that, and after a friend and I voiced our concerns, he obviously told the administration about the issue. Knowing he doesn't tolerate any acts of discrimination makes me wholeheartedly respect him as a person. Mr. Kurtz is the type of person that teenagers can feel comfortable voicing their concerns with, as he never ignores the feelings of students. Mr. Kurtz helped me to love what I was being taught. He helped me grow into the person I am now, and I find it easier to voice my thoughts and my concerns because of him. He showed me real life and how to live in it. He was there to teach me for 3 crucial years of my life, and I will be forever grateful to him for shaping my learning and my outlook on life. Mr. Kurtz is the best type of teacher to have, and Speedway is lucky to have him.
I don't know who that guy is, but he sounds pretty impressive. First of all, I'd like to thank her parents. Because what a fantastic young lady she is. And if I were you, I'd take full credit for it before she starts getting it on her own, because now she's going to start to earn lots of accolades. A couple of things about her is underneath that enchanting smile is the beats the heart of a warrior. There have been a few times where I appreciate being challenged. And there are different challenges. You know, the challenges are the murmurs back behind someone. But there was one time that stood out that we had a kind of a rough go on a test. And she, instead of just kind of folding up the tents and going home and deciding that it was my fault or somebody else's fault or just a bad day. She came up and she challenged me to explain why she was wrong. And between the two of us, we worked that out. And so that's kind of refreshing because a lot of times you don't get that. That's also speaks to her maturity. And so if you get someone like that has that maturity in their education and their belief in themselves, it makes teaching a heck of a lot easier. And she made it easy. She made it easy to teach, and I really appreciate that. And finally, in closing, this quote might get everybody's attention. It's tough being in love. It's tough being in love with the subject that you care, so that you know is so important. And it's tough being in love with these kids that you know it's so important what they do and how they are. And knowing that you can claim to have a big part in it, you get a little small piece. And I must admit that I'm a little jealous because I get to share it for 4 years and her parents get to have her for a lifetime. So if I'm just taking pictures of her off the internet, you'll know why. But I do appreciate that, and I thank her, and I thank each and every student that comes in with that challenge and with the times that when you're tired, because this time of year, I think Teacher Appreciation Week is often mislabeled because this time of year you're so exhausted you can hardly make it. And so sometimes when in the times of this, I appreciate those kind words, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell you that she made it easy to be in love with my subject, and she made it easy to share it. And for all that, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Riley and Mr. Kurtz. Next up, Bailey Evans, and she is recognizing Mr. Derek Dorman. Bailey will be attending IUPUI to study English and pre-law. Mr. Dorman is an English teacher and our media center specialist here at the high school.
I have had the privilege to have a class with Mr. Dorman every year of my high school career, which is not something a lot of people can say. Freshman year, I just had him as my regular English teacher, but starting sophomore year, I was able to take journalism with him. At the time, journalism was a class only offered to upperclassmen. But Dorman took a chance and allowed me to sign up for the class a year early. That first year, I was the only student in journalism that wasn't a senior, so the next year, I started off as the only student with any newspaper experience. Due to this, I received the job of helping the other students get a hang of how it all worked. This gave me not only experience as the newspaper editor, but also a leadership opportunity that I never would have had if not for Dorman letting me take the class as a sophomore. Through the years of English and journalism classes with Dorman, I've acquired an interest in different writing styles. Before, I used to only know how to write a research paper or a book report, but through the years, Dorman has taught me unique ways to write that can make my own writing and my articles stand out. In freshman year English class, during our Shakespeare unit, the class was split into small groups in order to write and perform our own play based on Romeo and Juliet. The prompt for my group's play was that the young couple survived and returned to Verona 20 years later. We threw ourselves into the assignment, and by the end, realized we had one extra character than we did group members. Dorman valiantly offered to perform as Romeo's grieving mother and gave the most passionate performance out of all of us. He hadn't even seen the script and its detailed annotations until the day of the performance, but he gave it his all. Dorman not only has been an interesting teacher and coach this year, but he's also been a dedicated one. When signing up for classes for my senior year, journalism would not fit into my schedule at all. I tried to figure out how to make it all work, but there was no time slot where I could actually take the student media course. But Dorman wouldn't let that happen. He offered for me to take the class by myself during the only period that would possibly work with my other classes. His willingness to help me finish my high school career in the class that I love meant so much to me, and Dorman didn't even think twice before doing it. Dorman's motivation and belief in me has helped me to fully see that I can succeed in whatever I put my mind to. His confidence in me and his willingness to help has led to me getting into almost every college I applied to and receiving countless scholarships to help me afford to further my education. Without Dorman as a teacher, I'm not sure I would be planning on studying English or have fallen in love with writing and literature. I hope you know how much you have impacted me as a person. Thank you for all that you've done for me. I will always be grateful.
Well, I'm very grateful that you were persistent in making sure that you took the class this year. Now, I'm going to pull something. I made a list, okay? This isn't some prescribed speech or anything, but my paper is full. By the time that Bailey writes her last piece for our student newspaper, our penultimate issue comes out on Friday. By the time she completes her journalism career at Speedway, she will have written 35 different pieces, okay? That's pretty darn impressive. This year, we've taken on the challenge of putting out a paper every other week, and it's all digital. So, and we always talk about the moment it publishes, you got to do something else now. You got to do something better because you're out there, you're published, and she has never backed away from that challenge. Dutiful is a word I can think of that describes her in what she does for that class every day. We're small but mighty, and the bottom line is it's pretty impressive what she's accomplished, both with the versatility of the topics, although there seems to be a political edge this year. You know, you can understand why with what's going on in the world. But she's written all different types of pieces too, and you have to have some courage to want to do that. But each week she comes in and she has her list of resources, and we've had a long-term and short-term plan all year, and that's just the kind of person she is. And I do remember the Romeo and Juliet work. That was scary. Okay. She's a voracious reader too, so I'm real encouraged that you want to pursue all these different things. And you put pre-law on there too. You know, I know a lawyer who would give you a thumbs up on that too. So, but I want to come back to grateful for just 1 second, and then I'll finish here. I'm extremely grateful to have worked with Bailey for 4 years, and I'm extremely grateful to be working here at Speedway. I don't know if many of you knew this, but in the fall, one day I woke up and I couldn't come to school, and the next thing I know, I was gone for 6 weeks. A health issue kind of thing, okay? Changed my life. And I knew I had a go-to count-on person here who helped us put out, I think, 3 issues during the time that I was gone. That just doesn't happen. It's not easy. And the fact that she ran the show and all I did was look at stuff and say, great job, great job. I'm incredibly appreciative of that, and appreciative of all of you in the audience and the people here at Speedway who make it happen. So thank you so much, Bailey. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Bailey. Thank you, Mr. Dorman. Next up is the class of 2021's salutatorian, Samuel Arley, and he is recognizing Mr. Ron Probst. Sam will be attending Purdue University, where he will study engineering. Mr. Probst is a recently retired AP Stats teacher from Speedway High School.
Genuine kindness. To make a one sample z interval to estimate a population proportion, One needs to satisfy the random, normal, and independence conditions. If that sounds difficult to you, well, it is, and it's an example of statistics. When I took AP Statistics last year, Mr. Probst made the subject easy to understand, often using real-life examples and applications, like when we investigated the proportions of the colors of M&Ms. By employing statistics procedures, we found that on average, the majority color of M&Ms in a bag is blue. And although it probably doesn't take much more than candy to win me over, Mr. Probst has been a particularly positive influence in my life. This is not only because of his dedication to his subject, but also because of the genuine kindness and interest he showed to all of his students. Last year, when I had Mr. Probst as a teacher, he was actually retired and was coming in for 2 periods a day just to teach statistics. Because of this, I had a sneaking suspicion that he truly enjoyed teaching. And he was very good at it too. Mr. Probst taught with what can only be described as a masterful balance between lecture and assignments. Not only did he communicate the curriculum of AP Statistics in an understandable and effective manner, but he endeavored to make certain that each and every student understood the material, often working one-on-one with students. He truly wanted to see his students succeed. I believe that our academic success was always the first priority of Mr. Probst, but he also showed a genuine interest in the lives of his students outside of school. I remember that he asked the same series of questions to each student on their birthday, including, what are you going to have for dinner and what is your favorite dessert? And being the former athletic director, he asked my classmates and I about our respective sports a lot, and I appreciate that he was always trying to connect with us. The most long-lasting impression Mr. Probst made on me, though, was his genuine kindness. Interacting with him in class, I learned that treating people with genuine kindness and respect brings out the best in them almost every time. With his kind nature, Mr. Probst always treated my classmates and I with encouragement and respect. The saying is true. People won't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. He made us feel valued. And that stands up to any kind of statistical analysis you could put it through.
Thanks, Sam, for those kind comments. When I found out that Sam was the person who invited me tonight, I tried to think of some people in the past that were like Sam, and I couldn't think of anybody. Probably the closest thing I could come up with was a team that I coached, I think it was like 1982. It was a junior varsity basketball team, and it was the most fun I ever had coaching in my life. And last year was very similar, having Sam as a student. They showed up every day at practice, a junior varsity team, like it was the last game of the sectional. There was never motivating. In Sam's world, that probably would be preparing for the last match at Wimbledon, because Sam's an accomplished tennis player. At least he tells me he is. I'm not sure about that, but he is. But every day at practice and every day with Sam in class was, they wanted to be driven. They wanted to be coached. They wanted to be pushed. Never complained about anything. It was just a great pleasure doing that. And as I said, Sam really was exactly the same way. It really wasn't like a willingness, or excuse me, it wasn't, they were willing to work and get better. They were eager to work and to get better. And so from that team to Sam, really a lot of things that were in common and things I will never forget. Whenever I write recommendations, and I've written a lot of them over the years, I try to make each one different, but there are some similarities. I always talk about what they were like as a student, and that's usually pretty easy. I might talk about what they were like on the athletic field, if they were in sports, or if they were into play, what they were like to their peers and the people, the teachers and things like that, but I always would end up with what they were like as a person. And I always would save 2 thoughts to only the special people. And I didn't use them very often, but they're very simple. But one was, he knows what's right. And I don't think there's too much more you can say about that. And the other one was, he makes people better. He made me better. I know that because every time he held his hand up, I kind of went like this. I was hoping he wouldn't ask a question I wouldn't understand, which several times he did. But those are very special things to me. And Sam, one other thing quickly I want to thank you for tonight. It might be a little bit off of the beaten path here, but last year when I did leave, March 12th, but I made a decision last year around Christmas I was not going to be back full-time at all. And I always wondered, and I know Mr. Claiborne talked about gratitude, what it would feel like the last day walking out after you've done something that you really love doing, and didn't get that chance. And people ask me, what's it like retiring? And I said, it's kind of weird because it's like it never ended. And all apologies to teachers and students, it's been like I've been on summer break since last March, is what it seems like. But I never got that period, and tonight you've kind of given me that chance to experience putting that period on the end. And it might be the number 2 pencil period, but it won't be the ink. These guys are taking AP exams, they've heard those terms over and over and over. But it's been very important, and I know down the line I'll be able to experience this gratitude a lot more than what I have been in the past. So thanks to everybody. Congratulations to the seniors and the parents and the teachers. Sam, you're on the right track. As I said, you know what's important. You help people out. And by being on the right track, I mean he's on the Boilermaker track. So that pleases me as well. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. Awesome.
Thank you, Sam and Mr. Probst. Our last pairing today is our 2021 valedictorian, Kendall Short, and she'll be recognizing varsity football coach Shane Clampett, who also teaches AP US History.
The one and only Mr. Clampett. The summer going into my sophomore year, I learned that we would have a new AP US History teacher. I have to admit, I was terrified. Having heard from previous students that this class was one of the most difficult they had taken, I thought having a new teacher could only make things worse. Fortunately, that turned out to be far from the truth. Mr. Clampett seemed surprisingly very capable. Not only was it his first year teaching US history, it was also his first year teaching an advanced placement class. It was extraordinary how easily he was able to teach this rigorous, demanding class. Eventually, I learned the reason as to why this was. Mr. Clampett had told our class that when he learned he'd be teaching APUSH, he dedicated his summer to attending multiple AP US history seminars and getting advice from experienced teachers of the subject. This illustrates just how committed to teaching Mr. Clampett is and how he wants the best for his students. He devoted his free time to ensure that he could be the best teacher possible so that his students would receive the best possible education. It wasn't until this year when I was Mr. Clampett's teacher assistant that I truly saw all the work and dedication he puts into not only the classes he teaches, but the sports he coaches as well. I've noticed every day that any available time in the classroom is spent typing up a practice plan, grading papers, or making lesson plans. Managing and planning a class, along with coaching 3 sports, takes a great deal of organization and work, but Mr. Clampett makes it look easy. As his assistant, I do what I can and we stay busy, but every day I know there will be something to laugh about. I especially get a kick out of messing with Mr. Clampett because I always know I can get a reaction out of him. Another benefit of being Mr. Clampett's teacher assistant that I will cherish forever is that he is not only my teacher, but a person I can confide in or go to with a problem. I can recall multiple times this year when I was either frustrated with something sports-related or something in school, and Mr. Clampett was always there to help me out. I truly appreciate everything Mr. Clampett has done for me this year because I know I would not be the person I am today without him. I don't know how I can ever repay Mr. Clampett for everything he has done, but I want him to know that I will always appreciate it. I will truly miss being in Mr. Clampett's class every day. I know that even after I graduate, he will be someone I stay in contact with. I'm going to miss the laughs I get out of his class, the constant banter, the everyday talks, and the advice he so willingly gives me. Sitting in my 10th grade history class that first day of school, I had no idea how much the person standing in front of me would impact my life just within 2 years. I plan on going into education, and I hope someday to be at least half the teacher that Mr. Clampett is today. I hope to have as much dedication and commitment to my students' education as Mr. Clampett does. I hope to be a compassionate, caring teacher just as Mr. Clampett is. And most importantly, I hope to make as big an impact on one of my students' lives just as much as Mr. Clampett has on mine.
Thank you. I was teasing her. I said, I'm good at this. I like talking in front of people, and I'm struggling now. My first year teaching 3 years ago, A-Push, was more than challenging. I didn't know what I was doing. It was a struggle. A lot of days I felt like I was barely keeping my head above water. But these students here in Kendall, I never wanted to let down. That was the most important thing to me. I wanted to make sure that I was as prepared and as ready to do the best I possibly could for them. Every time Kendall would ask me questions, I would answer, and then I would research, and I would come back to her the next day, and she doesn't know that, but I would often come back again because I wanted to make sure that she got everything educationally that she deserved. And then getting to know her the last couple years as a person, I'm blown away. I don't know if I've ever met someone as competitive, as motivated as she is. Every day, in whatever she does, she is going to do the absolute very best, and she's not going to stop. I couldn't be more impressed with a high school student than I am with Kendall. Talking to her about sports, about school, about her future, I'll tell her the same thing I would tell any of you. Be positive, talk to yourself. Every time that voice says you're not good enough, push it out with positive words. There's so much greatness in you that the world needs to see it. And she'll be a great teacher. She'll be a great person. And I'm just honored that she picked me. And I hope we stay close over the next few years and the rest of your life. And I will end with one thing. Sam is an accomplished tennis player. He beat me and Mr. Lindhorn 2 years ago, which I'm still a little bitter about. But needless to say, a great group of kids, and you should be really proud of yourself. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Kendall does in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Clampett and Kendall. After hearing from all of these students and teachers, I believe it becomes apparent why Speedway High School continues to be recognized over and over again for outstanding academic performance. The teachers and students truly do form a partnership where they can count on each other and learn from each other, and each challenge each other to get better every day. It is truly an amazing thing. The quality of the speeches, of course, were impressive. All these students are very intelligent, highly motivated. But the character of the students that the teachers talked about, and the teachers' commitment to learning, both the students learning, their own learning, they make that commitment daily. and they provide really a unique and exceptional educational opportunity to these students. And so everyone that's been honored here tonight, parents, thank you. Teachers, thank you. And students, thank you so much. Each of you have made this school a better place than it was 4 years ago when you first set foot in this hall. I truly appreciate that. You have my gratitude. This concludes our top 10 ceremony. If the teachers and students could come forward, Ms. Davenport would like to get some pictures. Thank you very much.